Between video games and movies, anything sci-fi and futuristic is all the rage. Combine this with the world's love of extreme weaponry, and you have yourself the perfect combination for an explosive wave of ideas. Let's take a look at what creative weaponry engineers of the world have come up with to satisfy our insatiable love for the insane. Known as the Extreme Accuracy Tasked Ordnance, the X-Acto sniper rifle doesn't shoot what you think it does. Instead of razors, this rifle shoots bullets that self-steer to the enemy. You heard that right. The future military could take on the role of the infamous Soldier 76. Like Soldier's Ultimate, these DARPA-created bullets can track down moving enemies, even when they're actively changing their location. This allows for the smart gun to automatically make the corrections that a soldier may typically have to make with a manual gun in order to hit their target. In doing so, more soldiers can be placed on sniper duty and be more useful when they're deployed. This next insane military creation is one that may not be so far into the future. In March of 2018, Boeing began working on a patent for a type of force field that could aid soldiers on their dangerous endeavors. Unlike games like Call of Duty or Apex Legends, a soldier wouldn't have to hit a button to activate the force field. The mechanism would be so smart that it could detect blasts and automatically deploy the shield. Unfortunately, the force field's patent isn't being exclusively worked on for soldiers, as it's being primarily used for vehicles. In focusing on the vehicles, soldiers won't have to worry about roadside bombs completely flipping and obliterating their Hummers. You might be wondering, what happens if the bomb is attached to the vehicle? Thankfully, we can answer this for you. When a bomb goes off on the outside of the vehicle, the force field will potentially keep the vehicle moving forward so the soldiers can be safe. While this technology is still being actively worked on, we can only hope for the finished product to come as soon as possible. This next form of weaponry is almost too sci-fi. DARPA's Doug Weber recently presented an idea that they could potentially turn off the fear that soldiers may have. In doing so, they'd be able to stay on track and complete the mission without their basic human emotions kicking in. While this could be good for remaining vigilant and strong during battle, what happens when it goes wrong? Would soldiers turn emotionless and go after their own without realizing it?
My name is Sergeant Andrew Scott.
On the other hand, this could potentially bring good news to veterans who suffer from PTSD, reducing the number of suicides dramatically. Turning off the fear factor could easily develop into using the body's inner workings to ensure the regulation of stress levels. While it sounds good on paper, how sure of this technology can we really be? Bulletproof body armor only goes so far and still leaves parts of the body vulnerable to injury. In the future, we could be looking at entirely bulletproof soldiers. While there wouldn't be bulletproof robots inside of a suit, future soldiers can begin using exoskeletons that completely throw away the idea of your standard Kevlar. Already in production by the US Special Operations Forces, the Talos exoskeleton can protect soldiers while being able to easily carry around up to 80 pounds of equipment. Think this technology couldn't be close to completion? Think again. In the next 5 years, soldiers will begin using bottom exoskeletons and could see full suits in their uniform within the next decade. What if we told you that the future of Army rifles could see 5 rounds at 4,000 FPS set off in one shot? The electric railgun rifle is weaponry that dreams are made of. Thanks to Martin Greer of Forward Defense Munitions, he was able to create the perfect powerful rifle after years of scientific research. Also known as the ribbon gun and the L5, this rifle doesn't operate like your standard firearm either. The bullets use a type of electromagnetic actuator to ensure that the bullets are fired with the assistance of the soldier pulling the trigger. We definitely wouldn't want to be in the sights of those who have this gun. Earlier, we discussed fully bulletproof exoskeleton suits, and that's not all that's being worked on for soldiers. The Center for New American Security reported almost 4 years ago that their exosuits were going to allow soldiers to carry enormous amounts of weight easily, without compromising their bodies or how their gear works. Soldiers will be able to carry a 100-pound machine gun without having assistance, and will actively be able to do so while actively moving. Strengthening exosuits will halt the use of large vehicles to carry weaponry around. In doing so, soldiers can be much stealthier during combat and conquer in battle. One of these suits is called the Hulk Exoskeleton System and has been ready for soldier testing for quite some time. Almost a decade ago, this robotic suit entered the US military headquarters for training. Despite being robotic, this suit doesn't impede range of motion. In fact, the suit aids soldiers of any size to jump, crawl, squat, and even run at various speeds. While it doesn't do all the heavy lifting, it certainly helps when soldiers have to hike up rough terrain such as the Afghan mountains with hundreds of pounds of equipment. Back in 2016, Russia's secret weapon, the Zircon, entered production. Known as the 3M22 hypersonic cruise missile, said missile will be able to break speeds of Mach 5 and 6. But of course, with new and large ammunition comes new base weaponry. This hypersonic missile will be placed in the 3K22 Zircon unit on board the battlecruiser Pyotr Veliky, but it won't be the first battleship to have it. The Pyotr Veliky's sister ship, Admiral Nakhimov, will be renovated for modernization and receive the new missile once it's completed. Unfortunately, this means that the former supersonic missile's P-700 Granite will be taken away and replaced. Updating top speed for supersonic missiles ensure that interception will be extremely harmful for enemies. With this incredible weaponry update, we just have to wonder what Russia has in mind for the Zircon's use. Speaking of hypersonic and battlecruisers, Boeing X-51's Wave Rider actually set the world record for the longest hypersonic flight in history. On May 1, 2013, this plane coasted over 230 nautical miles in under 6 minutes, not hours, minutes. When you think of military tanks, the words heavy and bulky come to mind. Thanks to a recent military design, PL-01, Poland's concept tank will feature ceramic aramid armor that dons multiple layers and has an add-on feature to replace damaged pieces. This stealthy tank will have an unmanned gun and room for 3 crew members to operate in battle. Thermal sensors will have a hard time detecting this tank during covert missions, as it will feature a stealthy thermal camouflage to block enemy thermal sensors. While the concept of this tank may change during production, one thing that's staying the same is who's using it: Poland. Based on the Swedish CV90 chassis, the PL-01 will be considered lightweight at a cool 35 tons. Spy gear is a must for any content regarding military weaponry. The future of warfare relies heavily on cybernetic insects. While they may be heavily stylizing annoying bugs, this small-scale flying mechanism is actually a drone that will be used for spying. The idea was originally thrown out into the world on October 1, 2014 by Dave Anthony, a former Call of Duty writer. Anthony's presentation was completed at Brent Scowcroft Center on International Security, utilizing potential threats and how they could be combated by being one step ahead of the enemy. A micro-flying spy drone wouldn't be where it stops either, as Anthony wants to throw a bit of cyanide in the mix and facial recognition. In doing so, you could potentially harm the enemy and see exactly who it is. The future of cybernetic technology wouldn't compromise the soldiers and would gather priceless information. Once DARPA heard of this, they wanted proposals sent to them regarding the cyborg insects. One of the biggest aspects of being a soldier is remaining as stealthy as possible, hidden from the enemy. With the latest technology always adapting, new ideas for military uniforms are popping up everywhere. Some years ago, the idea of quantum stealth camo was released onto the internet. Created and kept very secret by Hyperstealth, this Canadian company has been working on super stealthy camouflage for almost a decade. In short, the camouflage material reflects the background, rather than the front, making it appear to be nothing there at all. Have you ever seen Ghost in the Shell? The infamous thermoptic camo might not be so far-fetched. If you fear the movie Terminator, you may want to skip this next form of futuristic military weaponry. For the past 2 years, Russia has been working on an AI that remains completely still while shooting various types of guns. FEDOR, the trained AI, stands for Final Experimental Demonstration Object Research, and was originally intended for rescue missions, but the government decided to train the robot in a way where it wouldn't need to do any rescuing. In the latest news, citizens around the world were reassured that these humanoids were actually going to colonize the moon and prepare for various solo missions for the year 2021. While this next weapon won't injure any humans, it will severely injure your electrical grid for a while. You would think that North Korea was the sole originator of this technology, but South Korea is actually the culprit of the mind-blowing idea. Known as blackout bombs, the devices will release a type of carbon graphite that will interrupt electrical transmissions and short-circuit them. These bombs aren't new by any means, as they were first seen in the Gulf War and then again in Serbia circa 1999. However, South Korea has now evolved this technology and planted their roots on their military weaponry forefront. The reasoning? To protect themselves against North Korea if the chance was taken. Now that you have a bit more insight on what the world's governments are working on, are you more paranoid than before?
Where are you trying to kill me?
We hope that you've enjoyed our videos so much that you'll fall into the black hole of YouTube videos on crazy topics.